Erik Karlsson's point total didn't dip, it nosedived from his final season in San Jose to his first season in Pittsburgh. He also was part, albeit just a part, of the most disappointing power play in franchise history. So, how do you fix him? Do you fix him? Is there anything to be fixed? Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Karlsson's credentials are, of course, impeccable. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. 3-time Norris Trophy winner, 2012, 2015, 2023. One of the premier offensive defensemen in NHL history. That is not hyperbole. It is supported strongly by the statistics. Special player. And yet, although some of this was fueled by perception more than anything else, meaning people who don't really follow the sport all that much and will just pay attention to the, hey, he's standing there off to the side of the net. He looks guilty on that goal against. And then, of course, there were occasions where he was legitimately guilty, big time guilty, massive, ugly giveaways. And amid all that, he ended up putting together 11 goals, 45 assists for 56 points in 82 games. Again, way down from 101 points the previous season with the Sharks. But then his +4 was way up from the -26 with the Sharks, of course, plus minus being principally a team stat, and those Sharks being way worse than these Penguins. So what do you do with it? He's going to be here a while. This was the opposite of a short-term rental. He's going to be a part of that bridge, along with Sidney Crosby and others, to the next generation. What do you do? Or maybe I should ask, what should he do to return to whatever it was that made him a Norris Trophy regular into whatever happened this past season? Well, I'll start with him because he's culpable in some ways. He doesn't keep his feet moving often enough. It drives people inside the Penguins nuts. He still seems to be of the mind that he can recover from any situation. We don't have to wonder what that looks like because we've seen that with Chris Letang. Letang has forever believed that his skating, his endurance, his ability to recover makes him immune to mistakes, makes him immune to risks. I mean, I can try this because if it doesn't work, I'm going to be the first guy back. And if I'm not the first guy back, well, I will be eventually because I'm faster than everyone else. And it can make you a little bit, if you think about it, human nature, inherently lazy. Not that Karlsson's lazy. I just mean in this context, he can do that. He can also take fewer risks. He can make surer passes. And yeah, he can definitely shoot the puck more. There is no reason, none whatsoever, that a player of his magnitude, a scorer of his pedigree, should finish an 82-game slate, a full slate, with 2 power play goals and 11 total goals. That tells me nothing other than that he didn't shoot the puck often enough. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Okay, here's where I'll take his responsibility, his challenge ahead or whatever, and just slide it off to the side and share what I think the Penguins need to do with this remarkable asset. And if you've been a long-time listener to this program, I'm going to apologize for the repeat, but I spoke these words last summer before Karlsson played a single game in this sweater. The Penguins need to understand and appreciate this asset and respond accordingly. They were always going to have to adjust to Karlsson more than the other way around. When you acquire someone, not just who's that skilled, who's that gifted, but who has always played a certain way in the offensive zone, you can't be an idiot about it. You can't expect him to, I'll just figure out something else. No, you're the ones that went out and got the 101-point defenseman. You figure out how to blend with him. And what that means where Karlsson is concerned is going to the net and being sure to present the blade, to have the blade and ideally the shaft free, to be prepared, not just for deflections, but for rebounds, for redirects, for empty nets, backdoor beauties, and to have belief every time you go to that net that 65 at the point will find a path to get it through to you. That's really, really important. It was something Karlsson and I talked about a lot at around the midpoint of the season. And he was telling me about a good exchange that he had with Sidney Crosby around that time of year where they just agreed, listen, it might not look like I have anything. Just trust me. Go there. Go to this spot. Wait for me. Okay? I will get it to you. And sure enough, that's when you started seeing Sid just dink, dink, dink with those little semi-empty netters. Because Sid's really, really good at that. And the other guy might be the best who ever lived at that part of the equation. That part is on the coaches. That part is on Karlsson's teammates. If you can do that, and by the way, if you can do it with the best player of this century, then what's the excuse for everybody else to not do that? When we come back, J1Q. J1Q comes from Mike, who says, hey, DK, who will be the player who brings that capital T toughness next year? I'm not talking about who will be the biggest guy or the hardest hitter. I'm talking about who will be the one to turn off the lights in the weight room, to put in the work, to carve out a spot for themselves. Pittsburgh-style hard-working toughness. Mike, you kind of threw me in the middle of that because I was sure you were going to refer to like getting John Ludwig out there with more shifts on the third defense pairing. And I would like to see Ludwig get a chance. And I know that the coaching staff feels similarly about that. But what you're talking about, you say turn out the lights in the weight room. You're giving me a nice, easy in to continue my opening segment. Because one of those types this past season was Karlsson. Karlsson and Chris Letang. It was almost as if the two of them, beginning about a week before training camp, had some sort of, I don't want to call it a competition as if there was animosity involved or they were trying to prove something to each other or to anyone else, but that's how hard both of them work. That's how diligent they are about their craft. They didn't get to where they are as offensive or overall defensemen by just, falling out of the womb that way. And one of the things that struck me, this is going back to I was going to say opening week of camp last year, it was actually the opening day of camp, was the effusive tones with which they spoke about each other. And I did talk to both of them that day. What you're looking at is a scenario where there's two guys who understood that there's not a 1A and a 1B. It's a 1A and a 1A. There just happen to be two of those on the same roster. And because of that, because of what they put in, they led the way. I really believe this in that regard, the two of them. So when you say, who's going to be that guy? And you're going to presume that I'm going to leave out, the obvious, the core guys. But something that Kyle Dubas said after the season hit me, and I'm going to be probably repeating it a lot once the season comes around, is that Karlsson, he said, is part of the core. And I know some of us might go, really? That sounds gross. I mean, you'd have an easier time accepting that Marc-Andre Fleury is still part of the core versus someone who just came along last season and, oh, by the way, participated in a really lousy season. But when you're talking about the truly exceptional talents on the roster, the guys that are going into the Hall of Fame, if you're picking Hall of Famers off this roster, you're taking three guys that are absolute no-brainers. That's Sid, Gino, and Karlsson. Letang's going to be in a discussion for sure, but he's never won a Norris Trophy, and it's really tough for a defenseman to get in without a Norris. Karlsson's got 3 of them. But you have 4 such players. They all need to set that type of example. And they're not alone. I don't mean to leave Brian Rust out of this and other guys, Marcus Pettersson, who've established themselves in this regard. But when you're talking about this stuff that you brought up, Karlsson and Letang are your guys. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.